Okay, here we go. Okay, I'll be sharing for a little bit and we'll begin this stuff. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're about to begin. I'm just sharing a little bit. So if anyone joins, that's good. I'll open up my energy drink and we'll begin talking about some fights. I know it's kind of late, but hey, we'll see. We'll see what's up. So if anyone is over there, we're ready to talk about some fights very soon. I'll just need to sort some stuff out. Okay, just making sure to share and that kind of stuff, and we'll try. Okay, just this card changes to everything here. We'll get my DAW open. We'll get into it. Okay. Just wait for a little bit of people to join. Okay. Create. Okay. Anyway. So we're here to talk about a very bad pay-per-view actually, but we'll see what's up. I'm not very excited about these fights, but you gotta do what you're gonna do. So I'll send a link to a few more people and we'll start talking about it. So welcome everyone that is joining already. Just give me a little second and I'll start yapping about fights. ASM, what's up, brother? Happy to have you here. We're about to begin. Just give me a little Oh, yeah, Shriram, the GOAT, at the alt. On the alt, I'm here to talk about like the worst fights of all time. So very excited about that. Anyway, I think we have a few persons already, so I think we'll begin. So we're here to talk about UFC 309. I'm setting up some final stuff here. Oh, Ghost, you better get on that. You better get on that charger, unless you're outside or something. If your phone or laptop is about to die, I'm going to miss you on the stream. It's always fun to have you around. Anyway, anyway. Let's get some final stuff here, and I'll begin yapping hard about some very bad fights. Okay, I think I begin. What's up, everyone? I'm Feño from the Fight Side, and this is the full preview. So this is UFC 309. So we have Jon Jones, the baddest guy in the world or something. He's defending his title not against our current interim champion Tom Aspinall. He's defending his title against former champion Stipe Miocic, who is like over 40 years old and retired like 4 years ago. But hey, it's a legacy fight, as we say in the industry. I'm not very excited about these fights, to be quite honest. I'm kind of the defender of the pay-per-views, especially because I get into like all the fights, and I usually go on about how, oh, this undercard is actually good. This undercard is not that good, to be honest. So we'll get into that. This is going on this Saturday at Madison Square Garden in New York. In New York City, in New York, in the United States. We have 13 fights to talk about. And I'm not very excited about most of them. Let's get right into the first one, and I'll catch with the chat after that. Okay, so our first bout of the night is a flyweight bout between Veronica Hardy and Eduarda Moura. So let's begin with Hardy, a stocky and dynamic Taekwondo-based kickboxer. She establishes a long distance from southpaw, longer than her range. From there, she forces opponents to lead, or she blitzes, controlling the lead hand. She has powerful kicks, a solid straight left to the body. Hardy moves well on the outside. She can circle, not much of a pocket boxer, but she throws with power inside the pocket. Her defense relies mostly on distance and control of the initiative, mostly backs up, but can also dog for clinches and takedown attempts. She's good at parrying kicks and counter kicking, so that gives her another like layer to her defensive game. She's physically strong, has improved her takedown defense as of late, and her submission game is solid. One thing with Hardy is that she can run out of ideas as fight go on. Her cardio seems fine, and toughness is a very good attribute for her. She can have trouble if she's stuck at boxing range or against good chain wrestlers. Against her we have Moura, formerly a big strawweight. She's moving up to flyweight. She likes walking people down to the fence and has solid straight shot to push people back, especially her right hand. She stands up very uptight with her chin up in the air. Most of her fights have consisted of grappling, as she's insisted about pushing the wrestling. formerly aided by her size and strength. There are some questions about her size and physicality now that she's going to be facing bigger girls. Not a very nuanced wrestler. She will try single legs in open space, but mostly tries to drag people down against the fence with trips. She's a solid grappler from top position and from bottom position as well. She wears some people with wrist rise and she has good passing. Moura lacks good entries and panic wrestling can get her into trouble when she gets tired late into fights. Despite getting tired though, with her own pace, mind you, in tough fights, she can push while tired and has a lot of heart. Limited striking and entries to her takedowns are her biggest flaws. It is hard to know what will happen here. Moura will probably be bigger than Macedo despite coming from 115. She is a very big girl. But Macedo is strong and athletic. Obviously, this is a very classic striker versus grappler matchup. I feel like Macedo has a good style to punish a bare-bone striker, plus has dynamism as a scrambler to bail out a few times. Moura can win if she's able to fight takedowns, but now she's facing larger, stronger opponents. So my pick here is that Hardy wins a decision with some early scares. Okay, so we're back at the chat. Vladimir Matyushenko was robbed. He was so robbed, man. I like Matyushenko, like the janitor is such a sick nickname, man. Every time I remember Matyushenko more than remembering his fights, I always remember this very old clip of Phil Davis. Phil Davis was on an airport, okay? And here comes a fan. This fan looks very drunk. This is around like probably like 2009 or something. So this guy comes very, very drunk at him. And he starts yapping about like, pound for pound number one, Joe Jones here. He's the GOAT. And Phil Davis just follows along. And he just takes the piss out of this guy. Phil Davis goes like, oh yeah, man, you like when I threw those elbows on Matyushenko? Oh man, I always remember that shit. It's so funny. Like Phil Davis the GOAT for just like not telling that guy that he was not in fact John Jones. So every time anyone mentions Matyushenko, I remember that Phil Davis clip. Just a very funny dude. And yeah, Phil Davis overall more fun than most of these fights. Now the next one is not that bad, but we'll get into that. So after that, we have a welterweight bout. It pits Ovan Elliott against Basil Hafez. So let's begin with Ovan Elliott, a transition-based fighter. He likes to operate at open space, switching stances, mostly behind big kicks to all three levels. The boxing mostly comes together when he finds his range and timing. Improved boxing on the counter on his last fight. His defense still relies mostly on spacing, though he has improved his ability to hide behind his lead shoulder and angle out after his combinations. He moves well on the outside, likes having space behind him, but can circle against the fence. Ovan uses his kicks and stance switches to hide his takedown entries, and he's a good wrestler with a quick level change. Can finish in open space if he gets to the hips, or he can push people to the fence. And his takedown defense is very solid. He has heavy hips, he's quick to fight grips, mostly grabbing underhooks to kill shots, and he's solid in the clinch with elbows during transitions too. Elliott is a good scrambler. He always creates movement and uses his submission threats to get out of bad positions. Top control is not suffocating, but he makes sure to do damage during transitions. He has very good cardio and he's very tough. For Ovan Elliott, the shallow striking defense and lack of a second gear to dominate when pace is not put in a stamp of fights are like his biggest problems here. And against him, we have Hafez, an athletic wrestle boxer. Hafez is stiff on the feet but has solid punching mechanics and timing, plus his athleticism gives him speed and power. He switches stances often and likes to play the change-up of the lead hook and the overhand from both stances, and he's pretty decent on the counter. Hafez's body jab is a great range tool for him and a good setup for his big overhand. Hard leg kicks round up his range striking game. There's not a lot in the way of defense inside the pocket for Hafez, but he will throw back hard and in numbers. A good wrestler, he's very physically strong. He's the owner of a quick level change with a lot of drive. His finishes aren't very clean, but he's resourceful and insistent. Hafez is not very controlling. He usually goes for right and mat returns and will sacrifice position for submission from time to time. He's a good scrambler from every position, including attacking from his back. And he's very good at turtling and getting back to his feet, usually going 2-on-1 to get safe from backticks. He's very tough, has good gas tank, but can get tired because of his explosive style. Striking defense, lack of versatility, and getting tired on the third round are his most apparent flaws. This is an interesting fight between well-rounded fighter. Hafez more dynamic and the bigger puncher, but Elliott the better put together fighter with a more sustainable style. I think Hafez can find success early if he gets his hands on Elliott before he finds his range. But at the end of the day, Elliott is too well conditioned and too good of a defensive wrestler for this matchup, I think. So my pick is Oban Elliott wins a decision. So we'll get into the chat right now. James Kendrick, hello man, what's up? Aria Man said that bit of Glover getting mistaken for Junior Dos Santos is funny. Oh yeah, that was kind of recent, right? That was very funny. Remember when that journalist confused a Robbie Lawler with Tumenov? I think it was Tumenov. Yeah. Rio Sousen says, what are good mechanics in the pocket that you look for? Weight transitions or pivots, maybe head movement? Yeah, pretty much everything about that. I think when it comes to mechanics inside the pocket, you want a fighter that stays very well balanced. He keeps his shoulder on top of his hips on top of his feet. You want to make sure that his weight transfer when punching and when moving his head are not messing around with his balance, and he's in good position to hide behind his shoulders or cover up if it's necessary. I would say those are like good mechanics inside the pocket. James Kendrick says, is this the sorriest Madison Square Garden card? I would say so. This one is rough, man. This one is kind of rough. I'm not a big fan of this one, to be quite honest. Oh, we have Ghost back. That's good, that's good. Let's move on to the next fight. Which one is even... Oh. I'm not. Okay, I'm not. I messed up, so there's like Hardy and Moura. We have Elliott versus Hafez, and we move up to the next one. We stay at welterweight for our next bout, and it's a fight between Gall and Brahimaj. So let's begin with Gall, a lanky grappler. His development has suffered from fighting too high level of opposition in the UFC. He has basically fought his whole career in the UFC. He was brought in to fight CM Punk, and he just stayed because he was pretty decent. So he has like a 50-50 record in the UFC. He's a long and decent puncher on the feet, especially when he throws his shot straight with a decent jab and a heavy right hand. Gall is dangerous from single collar ties too, with uppercuts and hooks. He tends to shift when trying to track opponents, which allow him to cover distance, but can be open. This athlete can open him up for counters or to be sidestepped. Lack of hip movement, but he parries and blocks with his elbows decently well from range. Clinch and level changes offer a safety blanket because his striking defense is kind of bare bones. Gall is not a great wrestler, but he has good timing in open space for the double leg. And he's decently strong and sticky when looking for takedowns against the fence, where he looks for body lock takedowns or to swim to the back. Gall is a rear naked choke specialist. He has good setups and passes to get to the back, and he's a good rear naked choke finisher. Grappling is overall solid with a strong front headlock game, but he can be taken down. If he gets taken down, he will use butterflies or wall walk to get back up. Chin and toughness are good attributes for Gall. Cardio is okay, but has faded during third rounds. Striking defense, I would say, is the biggest problem for Gall. Against him, we have Brahimaj, a submission wrestler, decently athletic, can put his hands together and likes to pressure foes to the fence to work his wrestling. He uses the jab to back people up and carries power on the right hand. Not a lot of the way of defense, particularly hittable when throwing his own punches, doesn't move his head much, can be blindsided. He can grab proactive clinches to defend and will look for elbows during breaks. Brahimaj is a strong wrestler against defense. He mostly likes to drop levels from the clinch, connect his hand and finish doubles against defense. He's very good at taking the back or passing immediately after his takedown. He's very good at finishing the rear naked choke. So we have two guys that are all about the rear naked choke here. But Brahimaj is also dangerous with the arm triangle and the guillotine. He can be taken down, but usually works hard to get back to his feet. Submission defense has been solid all around during his career. Brahimaj is not very big for the division, and he's not very resourceful, as his gas tank usually takes a hit midway through fights. Lack of dynamism late in fights and striking defense, I would say, are his biggest flaws. This is a fight between two grapplers with a penchant for the rear naked choke. At first glance, Brahimaj looks better put together, with better mechanics to his punches and his wrestling, but Gall has a size advantage and probably a durability and gas tank advantage too. While Brahimaj might be more skilled overall, I feel like Gall has more experience in tough fights and has a better feel for fighting, I feel. Neither guy takes over fights when they go long, but I think Gall stays more composed, and I think his right hand is going to be trouble for Brahimaj. So my pick here is that Gall wins a decision. Let's get back into the chat, boys. Gall fights, grabbing the bottom of the barrel here. I'm not that big of a Gall hater. Like, I mean, he's fine. Like, he's an okay low level welterweight, I guess. He's like at the very least he has shown to be like UFC level, right? He has like a 50-50 record, has some decent wins, some embarrassing ones too, right? I think the big problem for Gall, as I said on the breakdown, is that I feel like fighting his whole career in the UFC really hampered his development, I feel. Go says, should Gall use the right hand to the body under Brahimaj's jab? Watching versus Gorimba, he doesn't change. Yeah, no, one big problem for Brahimaj is that he's very like on tempo, right? And I feel like Gall having like the reach advantage here. I think he can intercept him going under. And Gall sometimes goes hard with the right hand to the body. We saw a few of those against Hafez. That can be dangerous though, because every time that you're throwing to the body, you can expose your shin, especially because Gall doesn't have like super great mechanics. Defensively, I feel like he puts like decent pop into his punches, but he keeps the shin kind of up in the air. We have Melo in the chat. Gall actually got better over his UFC tenure, which I respect. Yeah, true. But losing to Diego Sanchez is real bad. Yeah, man, was Gall like the last Gall, like, I mean, the last like Diego Sanchez actual win, right? Because I think he beat Michel Pereira after that, but yeah, that's like his last actual win, and he out-grappled the shit out of Gall. But I mean, Diego Sanchez, even when he was like shot to bits, a very good grappler. The problem is that he was like pretty small for welterweight, so he was not going to be wrestling anyone. Hey Blaine, what's up? We have Blake Henry from the Fight Library over here. Okay, so we're caught up with the chat. We'll move on to the next fight. Let me change the... Okay, we have big boys. I know you all guys love the heavyweights, our favorite division, right? After that, we get to a big boy fight. It is Marcin Tybura versus Jonathan Diniz. So let's begin with Tybura, a knockout volume kickboxer with a well-rounded game. Tybura changes his stances and moves his head a lot from range, pestering opponents with his jab, looking for openings for looping rear hands or kicks. He likes to extend combinations inside the pocket. He can shift into range and is good at doubling up, especially from his left side. He's also a dexterous kicker. He has a damaging front kick to the body and a sneaky left high kick that he throws like Shembert karate style. He's janky but surprisingly difficult to hit clean inside the pocket, as he mixes head movement with high elbow blocks and cross guards. Can be vulnerable at range and during entries though. Tybura is not afraid to mix it up with clinches and level changes into takedown attempts. He's not a tremendous wrestler, but the pace and pocket exchanges he forces allow him to get to the hips. He has solid top control with constant ground and pound. Wrist control allow him to wear on people even if they can't get up. And he's a solid defensive wrestler too. Tybura's chin, conditioning, and pace are his main attributes. His lack of second gear and dynamism can be a problem during close fight where his pace is matched. A striking defense at range can also be concerning. And also, you gotta consider that Tybura is getting up there in age and wear and tear. Against him, we have Diniz, a former pro kickboxer, like a legit one. He's calm and collected. Diniz operates at range, mostly behind solid leg kicks, both to the inside and the outside. He feints from both sides, and a poking double jab allows him to find his power shots. He's powerful with both hands, closes the door with the left hook, and stays balanced and over his feet during combinations. He pairs attacks well and adjusts mid-combo based on reactions. Diniz's defense is bare bones. He moves his head proactively with his own attacks, but he can be caught at range. He's a decent counterpunching threat, and that alleviates a little bit of his defense. He showed improved takedown defense in his last fight. He can kill shots early with underhooks and circling, but he can be taken down during prolonged exchange or when opening it up with his right hand. Diniz is good at stalling and remaining calm from bottom position. He will create a space and work get-ups if he gets like any kind of space or during transitions. He has good cardio and chin. Diniz's biggest problem comes in the form of sketchy moments at range and his lack of experience when it comes to wrestling and grappling. So when it comes to this fight, I think Tybura will play to his well-roundedness here. Tybura probably can't go straight into takedowns as Diniz is the superior athlete and can defend announced shots. Diniz can probably punish some of Tybura's jankiest movements with leg kicks and his left hook. But Diniz needs to be careful of not swinging wild or get predictable with kicks to not be taken down. Diniz's best attribute here is his decent conditioning and cool mind. And Tybura needs to make things ugly and find takedowns if he wants to win this one, right? I think what makes me sway in a singular direction here is Diniz's lack of big mistakes and his superior athleticism. And the striking mechanics too, like he doesn't like really expose himself when striking, so this has like all the makings for the classic like Tybura like just beating a prospect here. But I think Diniz is actually like a bad matchup and Tybura is getting like kind of older, so taking a little bit of a risk even though he's the favorite, but I think this is somewhat of a risky pick from an analysis perspective, so I'm going Diniz by decision. Let's get into... Okay, so Go says at UFC 268, Jan Bilantes somehow snuck his way on a very good card. UFC 3 now they put Tybura on here to make the card worse. I mean, this fight could be alright. It could be very bad too, because with Tybura you never know. Like sometimes you get some bangers with Tybura just because he just fights at such a high pace. But sometimes they are like such ugly fights. You never know, man. James Kendrick says the big boys fight. How do you watch Tybura fights and know what to hurt yourself after? Dan Tom says, bless Tybura high bows. Oh man, the boys from Tybura is crazy, man. Like he's fucking huge, man. And he's fucking huge, and when they go and interview him, he's like, oh, I'm very happy I won that fight, you know. And he gets the accent too. Oh my god. Don't wanna to be quite honest, like Tybura seems like a super nice dude, man. He's a solid fighter, right? I respect the shit out of Tybura, man. We have heavyweight TJ Dillashaw, man. We got Blaine Ghost down in the chat. Yeah, man. We are the chat is packed tonight. I'm glad to have you guys over. Thank you so much for being here. Imagine saying nice things about heavyweights in 2024. I try really hard to be nice to fighters. So don't make me go into the dark path, right? I've been a hater for too long. I'm trying to there's two things about Tybura being a heavyweight TJ Dillashaw. One is that he always walks out to Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the other one is that, yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes when he goes like with the high guard and he's doubling up with the lead hook, like you know he wants to be TJ Dillashaw, man. You can tell like Tybura just like me because we're both like TJ Dillashaw fanboys at heart. Anyway, let's change the slideshow to the next one. Oh man, tonight is hot, man. I'm going to be sweating over this baby. Okay, we have this one, a featherweight. So okay. Next fight is a featherweight bout. It pairs Roberto Romero against David Onama. So let's begin with Romero, who is being listed as red corner for some reason in Topology. So we'll begin with him. Romero is a wrestle boxer. He fights out of a boxing stance with a high guard and will occasionally switch stances, but he's a natural orthodox fighter. He pushes a pace with moving his head into big loopy shots and has solid leg kicks and likes to attack with a switch kick to the body from close quarters. He crashes into the clinch a lot and likes to make fights dirty, constantly feinting level changes. He can weave under shots, also hides behind his lead shoulder well before finding the clinch. High pace inside the clinch will look to mix in knees and big punches during breaks. He's not a very nuanced wrestler, but very insistent, likes to finish double legs against the fence. From the top, he's solid with a very heavy shoulder pressure that he uses to pass and good at maintaining control during transitions. He showed a solid game from the back in his last fight with very good control from the back and solid finish with the rear naked choke. He scrambles very well from the bottom and he's urgent about getting up. He has had trouble maintaining his high pace in the past though. I've seen him like getting tired in the third round. Lack of a second gear and options can be a problem for Romero. Against him we have Onama, well-rounded, big and athletic, an active feinter at range with both hands and legs. Onama likes to fight hands and feint jabs before throwing long shots when he gets his opponent backing up. Solid calf kicks complement his hands. His straight shots are a lot better than his loopy ones, but he's fast and powerful, so he can surprise people with the loopy shots, especially when they're like moving back. Onama likes to retreat with outstretched arms, looking to deflect shots with his elbows and hiding behind his shoulders. He has good vision, but he can be set up by combinations. Onama is overall a solid wrestler and grappler, aided by his size and athleticism. He usually works his takedown from the clinch, dropping level against the fence from there working upper body trips. He's a very good scrambler during transitions. Onama is quick and slippery and can reverse a lot of bad positions. He has been easier to control with more static top control though. Like Onama mostly finds his reversals during transition. Not much of a guy that is going to create the opportunity for himself. Onama is a submission threat from the back, the front headlock, and from top with the arm triangle. He's very well conditioned and very tough. His biggest problem can be a lack of directionality and willingness to accept the fight given to him. So here there are some paths to victory for Romero, especially taking the back as Onama usually exposes it when he's working his get-ups. While Onama is dangerous and has a good gas tank, pushing the pace and playing transitions might be a route to victory here. But that being said, Onama is the better striker and athlete with a lot more experience. I expect Onama to win the striking and reverse position if it goes to the ground. My pick is Onama by decision. Okay, Go says Onama is pretty good. I like his... Onama is pretty solid overall, man. Yeah, Onama is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. I feel like his striking has some limitations, but he's such a good athlete and he's so big for the division that he's going to be a problem for a lot of people. He's like the... On the feet, I feel like he's like the non-annoying version of Gomis. That kind of racist, right? Just because they're both black. No, but I'm saying like the style because both guys are like lanky and very long. But Onama is not playing like the karate bullshit from MMA Factory. Real Sosenes says, I'm not as smart as the people in this chat. What does directionality mean? When I talk about directionality, I mean like mostly who's pressuring and who's moving on the outside. Mostly like who's deciding what course the fight is taking. You can tell that some fighters are very good at deciding what's going on in a fight. Some guys like decide to pressure or push the wrestling, and they're able to impose it, that kind of game. While other fighters just are like very accepting with what their opponents want to do. I feel like Onama has a little bit of trouble with that. If his opponent wants to wrestle, he's not like going like super hard on defending takedowns and then getting back into space. He's very confident on his skill set. So he's like, okay, we're going to wrestle. I'm going to show you that I'm good at wrestler, right? And sometimes he might have some advantages in other areas. Same with like pressuring or moving on the outside. He's not a guy that decides where the fight is going to take place, right? So when I talk about directionality, I'm meaning that mostly. Yeah, let's boo Gomis. All my homies hate Gomis, right? Boo! All the homies hate Gomis, man. Okay, let's get right into the next one. We move up one division. It's a lightweight bout. Jim Miller welcomes Damon Jackson in his UFC lightweight debut, I think. Let's begin with the legend, Jim Miller. A veteran, most fights in UFC history, 41 years old. Last time took a huge beating at the hands of King Green. But man, Jim Miller is still a crafty and dangerous southpaw kickboxer on the feet, man. Hands are on the wild side, but he throws hard and accurate and has become a better counterpuncher with age. Miller is also a rough kicker who can attack the legs and body constantly. Counter elbows give him a good threat about fighters looking to close the distance. Defense can be hit and miss. He can move his head well and has good positioning, but can be caught up. He can be caught when set up with feints on where closing the distance. Still a decent offensive wrestler, mostly works against the fence nowadays. A good scrambler and submission artist from his back. Miller can have trouble getting up against smothering top control, especially if he's not like against the fence. From top, he has very good passes and damaging ground and pound with elbows. That's something to look out for. Formerly the owner of Elite Cardio, his conditioning has been more questionable with age, getting tired during some third rounds. Still durable and immensely tough, Miller has struggled when stuck at a particular range against a specialist, as his transition game isn't as dynamic as he used to be. Against him, we have Damon Jackson, moving up from featherweight, very aggressive out of the gate, a lanky striker on the feet. Mechanics aren't great, but he has good timing and decent pop, plus some craft to his striking. He's aggressive with kicks and will use them to close the distance, be it to level change or grab clinches off them. Jackson can move his head side to side when attacking and will cover up when moving back. Defense against the fence has been an issue repeatedly over his career. He's very aggressive with single collar ties. He uses his frame well to attack with punishing knees to the body. He's aggressive during transitions too, will shoot a lot of takedowns, and he's quick to throw hands if he's denied. A grindy wrestler against the fence. Jackson is not very technical with his finishes, but sneakily strong and uses his frame well. He's a very good scrambler. Jackson will always wrestle up from the bottom or use the threat of the guillotine to create space and get back up. He's tiring from top position. Jackson will attack mat returns or use the front headlock to keep people down and wear them out. And he's very tough, but his striking defense can make him absorb too much damage. And that can mean that he can tire on the third round during harder fights. And that can expose him because of his like sloppy mechanics, right? It is hard to get a read here. Miller is old, coming off a brutal loss, while Jackson isn't exactly young and he's moving up a weight class. Jackson will probably have an edge when it comes to pace and overall activity, but Miller remains the more dynamic threat, especially early in the fight. A lot of the fight depends on Jackson's ability to walk forwards, I feel. If he's moving back or hanging out at range, Miller has the advantage as the more powerful and technical striker. I expect Jackson to have trouble wrestling Miller, who remains physically strong in the clinch and is aggressive with strikes there. Jim Miller won't easily accept being pushed around, I feel. Miller might be done, but I would have to see it first. Until right now, I think Jim Miller has still looked pretty solid. Like, he's very old, but he's still like a well put together fighter that is dangerous, right? I think, I don't know, man, this one is hard to pick, but I'm feeling like Jim Miller is going to win his first decision in a long while here. Just because he's going to have the bigger moments, I feel. So my pick here is Jim Miller by decision. Opinion on DC saying Jim Miller is not a Hall of Fame fighter. Yeah, I think this is wrong there, right? Especially if I think Cowboy is already in the Hall of Fame. Like, Jim Miller was not at the Cowboy level as a fighter, but you just one step below, and he has been such a historical fighter, right? Jim Miller has been involved in title eliminators, so he was quite a few times. I think 3 times he was like one fight away for fighting for the title. I think his fight with Nate Diaz was a title eliminator. Did he fight like Benson Henderson? I'm not pretty sure. And then you could say that his fight, the 5-round fight against Ronnie, was also a title eliminator. So yeah, man. I don't know, man. The fighter with most fights in UFC history. So yeah, I feel like, I don't really care about the UFC Hall of Fame. I think it's all bullshit. But if you're going to put a fight that is not a champion over there, I think Jim Miller has it just because he has been in so many good fights. He's an historical anomaly, so you have to put him there, I would say. Jack's like Timestamp and Playlist Project. Hey! How are you, my dude? You're using the Jack Slack account today, yeah? Go says, would you have wanted to see Jim Miller versus Matt Brown at UFC 300? Yeah, that sounds dope, I think. I feel like Matt Brown kind of too big for Jim Miller. Would make me nervous for Jim Miller inside the clinch. But it would be like a fucking banger, right? And especially because like Matt Brown is pretty old too. Both have like a ton of fights. Would have been a very cool fight. I thought the fight against King Green was it was awful to watch Jim Miller getting such a bad beating, right? But I felt like it was solid matchmaking. It just ended up with a kind of unfortunate event. I thought King Green looked very good in that fight. Very sad that he didn't look like that against Paddy, right? But it's whatever, man. We cannot have nice things over here. Oh, man, this one is depressing. Okay, we'll get into that. Next one is a middleweight bout, and we have Chris Wideman against Eric Anders. Let's begin with Wideman, the former middleweight champion and grappling phenom. While he looked a bit better the last time around, he's still a far cry from his former self. Wideman nowadays fights at range behind an outstretched lead hand. Look out for eye pokes. Looking for spots to land long kicks or manipulate the head of his opponents with the jab for punches. Excuse me. He has a predilection for the rear snap kick to the body. A lot of feinting with his footwork, shoulders, hips, and also level changes. All of that help him maintain the initiative. Long range help him with defense, and when he swamps opponents against the fence, he will post on them to help his defense, but his head movement can be lacking. Reflexes and reaction to being hit have taken a big hit late into his career. He's still strong from the front headlock. He will attack with knees or snap down opponents from there. And Wideman is still the owner of a clean single leg. His physicality has also deteriorated during wrestling exchanges. He still can chain attempts with good change-ups between different finishes, from the single to the double and high crush lifts though. So watch out for that if Wideman changes level here. He's not as dynamic of a scrambler anymore too. Wideman still can be controlling from rights against the fence and still has submission abilities. It wasn't that long ago that we saw him submit Kelvin Gastelum. If he finds himself on his back, he's still a capable mat wrestler and he's quick to get to a leg to wrestle his way up to his feet. Conditioning starts to shake during the second half of a fight. Striking defense, moving back, and lack of dynamism in his wrestling in open space are the biggest issues for current Wideman. And also, and this is a thing that also happened like during his late prime, is that his mind seems to drift away. He like kind of loses focus during long fights, I feel. Against him we have Eryk Anders, physical southpaw. He mostly likes to walk people down to the fence fighting with the lead hand. He prefers a low volume affair but will throw more against more aggressive foes. Anders likes to enter off his jab or a scooping lead uppercut before throwing his loopy left hand, sometimes framing off his opponent. An uppercut offers variety during exchanges inside. He can lose track of his positioning during prolonged exchanges and can be hit there, but he packs power on both hands, so it can be sort of a double-edged sword for his opponents. Lack of head movement at range is also a problem, mostly relying on his lead hand control and spacing to keep safe. Still a strong presence inside the clinch, Anders is hard to move around. He can score damage with his knees to the body. He likes to attack single legs against the fence, but his finishes aren't great. He's more effective when allowed to clasp the hands for a double leg. He's a solid grappler from both top position and bottom. He usually opts for control, but he can land heavy ground and pound if he gets to a dominant position or gets to control a wrist. Anders gets tired, but he maintains a consistent fighting style late into fights, I feel. He has good chin, but he can get hurt, especially when blindsided, but his recovery has been pretty good, and he's very, very tough. Low output and defense inside the pocket are his biggest flaws. So here, Anders is a southpaw with limited reactions and not a high output. All of these things are good news for Chris Wideman. On the other hand, Anders will be the bigger hitter. He's solid defending takedowns and will be physical inside the clinch. Even at this stage, Wideman still has some key advantages skill-wise, but I feel like Anders plays a more like coherent game for their current state and skill set. Anders might struggle with the kicks early, but I think he will defend takedowns and win ugly exchanges against the fence. My pick is Eryk Anders by decision. Okay, let's get back to the shot. Is Eryk Anders just a left straight into a single leg? Pretty much. He also has like a scooping uppercut from the right side. Pretty much that's it. Is it crazy that there are only a few left-handed people in the world, but Wideman has someone fought 12 southpaws? Yes, man. Wideman against southpaws is crazy, dude. He has fought all of them, man. Hey, Ronan. What's up? Happy to have you here. Rio Sosen says, random question. Is compassion a disadvantage in fighting? Like if you know Wideman had that severe injury, should Anders switch to his game to low kicks? Maybe. The thing with Wideman is that Wideman is this open stance. So, and Wideman broke his leg kicking, right? He didn't get his leg broken by kicks. So, but you could target that, right? Anders could try his hand at some like very low leg kicks to see if he does some damage to Wideman, right? The jump with the southpaw report. Wideman is 7-3 against southpaws. Yeah, he's so good in open stance, man. Mostly because he was preparing his whole career to fight Anderson Silva. So that's something like, he's one of those guys, right? That came up against a very dominant champion, and you can tell that he he revolved his game about fighting this one guy. And when you're like making your style to be like a very very good fighter, you end up a very good fighter yourself, right? We see examples like T.J. Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt that came up getting prepared to fight Dominic Cruz. And they end up with like very very interesting styles that transfer well to a lot of other matchups, right? Dude has fought 10 southpaws. That's actually insane. It is crazy, man. Um, who's the guy? Brendan Allen has fought like quite a few southpaws in very few fights in the UFC. So me and Dan Tom always talk about how we sometimes think he's like a southpaw himself because he's all the time in these open stance matchups, right? Area Man says, I do think a decline in appetite for violence does happen to all the fighters. Yeah, for sure. I feel like other than like other fighters like losing aggression, that is probably something that also happens, is that they are a lot more conscious about getting into exchanges because they are dealing with brain damage sometimes, or they are like not so sure about their durability, especially if they start taking like shots in sparring and they start realizing, oh man, I can take those shots anymore. So you can see like fighters that used to be like very aggressive during their primes, they think twice about it after getting into an exchange late into their careers. We saw Pedro Munoz, right? Pedro Munoz was like very aggressive, didn't give a shit, would get into a like slobber knocker with Cody Garbrandt, would not care in his prime, right? And now we saw him, and even when he has to force the issue, like he has those thoughts inside his head, right? His subconscious is telling him, hey man, take it easy here. Don't do anything stupid. We can get hit if we get into a pocket exchange. So you better not do it, right? So there's always that, man, I feel like there's always that, like fighters are conscious about what could happen to them the older they get. And when they are young and super confident, they don't have to deal with that, right? So let's get into the next one. Okay, this one is the good one. we are at the good fight of the night. The one good fight. And next we have a bantamweight fight between Jonathan Martinez and Marcus McGhee. Let's begin with Martinez. A southpaw kickboxer, Martinez is at his best when he gets to pressure behind his punishing kicks to all three levels and establishing a long distance. His feints and excellent timing allow him to land kicks with little to no setup. He has very good inside leg kicks from open stances, and that's not a thing that a lot of fighters are used to deal with, so look out for that. He has a decent jab in open space, and his counter-kicking abilities allow him to maintain the distance that he wants. Counter knees against incoming foes are an ever-present threat. When he gets people against the fence, he can open up with his hands more and also attack with leaping knees. His defense has been susceptible for combinations as his head movement mostly works on the first layer. But a combination of footwork, spacing, framing, and high guarding keep him safe most of the time. Pressure usually helps with his takedown defense, usually fights hands early during shots and uses his footwork well, but he has a solid sprawl too if he needs to. And Martinez is strong in the clinch with knees, elbows, and also sneaky trips from the body lock. He's a solid scrambler with good fundamentals. Martinez remains calm from bad positions and looks to work his way back to his feet with butterfly hooks and wall walking. He fights grips well before committing to get-ups as well. That's a very good quality. Cardio and toughness are some of his best qualities. His boxing deficiencies put a ceiling to his potential. And against him we have McGhee, an MMA lab product, stocky and athletic. He's always switching stances at range, giving different looks. Likes to bait opponents entering range with feints to counter, usually angling or switching back before fighting and circling again. When he actually leads, he usually does so behind a jab. He's not active with his jab, but he uses it well as a range finder and as a combination starter. McGhee manages distance well, but he lacks head movement when putting combinations together. He has power on both hands and volume when countering, and that helps with his deficiencies inside the pocket. He's a very good swimmer against the fence. He attacks with long combinations, maintaining his balance and varying his targets well. And he's also not afraid to level change and look for takedowns, mostly to break the rhythm of the fight and attack during transitions. McGhee is also very aware during transitions, will put combinations together during breaks, and he will follow fleeing opponents with long combos, switching, and catching guys when they're trying to like back up from combinations. He's a solid wrestler and physically strong. He likes to ride foes against the fence to land ground and pound as they try to get up. He's a good scrambler like most MMA lab guys. He's hard to hold down and has good fundamentals if put in sketchy situations. McGhee lacks experience against high-level opposition and has never gone to a decision in his career. Cardio seems fine, but remains a question mark in a tough fight. Other than that, he can lack tools at long range if his footwork tricks doesn't work, and his defense can look sketchy when he's not controlling the initiative. Shin seems very solid so far. So, this fight. A lot of this fight depends on McGhee's ability to get on the inside and let go with his boxing combinations. It hangs on his ability to move forward and freeze Martinez with his entries, be it with feints or the double jab. If stuck at range, Martinez probably has a big advantage, unless McGhee can explode inside with a counter. McGhee has looked kickable, and Martinez can kick him no matter if he goes southpaw or orthodox, right? Martinez's knees can also be a factor if he gets a read on the entries of McGhee. Grappling probably not going to be an issue. McGhee might try to force it, but Martinez is sturdy. The threat and transition would probably favor McGhee though. That said, I feel like the lack of experience of McGhee, especially against this particular matchup, is going to cost him here. I can see McGhee winning via knockout if he gets inside, but I can just as easily see Martinez sticking him at the end of his kicks and cripple him. So I'm picking a knockout by Martinez on the third round. Okay. This is one of the two good fights on the maker. Yeah, man. And this one is like because like, of course, like Oliveira and Chandler is a good fight, but like, who really wants to see that fight instead of another matchup? So that one is good, but it's like disappointing. So yeah, this is like the good fight. Dan Tom says, this fight is Pedro from Navel and Dynamite versus Drexler from Oh man, dude. Oh man, I have to... Bro. Oh man, that's rough. Man, McGhee, Drexel, McGhee, man. How do you like Martinez setups with his kicks? I feel like he sets his kicks very well and he doesn't need a lot of setups because as I mentioned on the breakdown, he's very good at catching, at timing, for example, the steps of fighters, of just hiding his kicks behind like a little feint here and there. So I feel like Martinez is pretty solid with setups, and he's such like a hard kicker that he can like, he doesn't mind like soft checks or blocks. He knows he's going to win that on the long run if he starts kicking and kicking. So I like a lot that about Martinez. And with that, the good fight is over, right? This one is kind of exciting because we're back to lightweight for the next one. We have Mauricio Ruffy against James Llontop. So let's begin with Ruffy. A dynamic and athletic fighting nerd's product, usually operates at neutral space, keeping his hands low, heavy on his front foot, looking to potshock with power strikes or counter entries. He has powerful calf kicks, and those are his main scorers at open space. Ruffy's defense mostly relies on spacing, but once he gets a read, he will try pull counters or sleeping shots to come back with short combinations. He has very good eyes inside the pocket. Ruffy has power in both hands and feet. He can surprise opponent with dynamic moments, including immediate immediate setups, particularly fighting hands to land big shots over the top or uppercuts off frames. He lacks consistent scoring tools other than his leg kicks despite having a mechanically sound jab. He can fail to dictate the pace and direction of a fight. Footwork and head movement can look disconnected when pushed back, so that's one flaw again about Ruffy. He's big and strong inside the clinch, not very active but defends takedowns with solid technique. Not a lot of data when it comes to his grappling, but he trains out of a solid gym that has produced solid grapplers in the past. Low output and lack of control of fight seem to be his problems so far. Against him we have Llontop, a wild kickboxer. Llontop fights out of a high guard, slipping side to side, looking for openings to land his wide punches. A solid jab glues together his wide punches and allow him to intercept entries before pouring his combos together. Llontop has good eye for opening and adjusts as the fight goes on, attacking the body and punishing head movement. And he has solid kicks at range and blitzing entries that allow him to cover distance against fighters hanging out at range. Head movement is a bit on the janky side, but in conjunction with his high guard, it makes him harder to hit than it seems. He's more vulnerable during his own combinations, but he attacks with volume and is a present counter threat. He will dirty box inside the clinch and will look for knees during breaks. Wrestling defense has been kind of lacking though, especially at the UFC level, but has shown an ability to grapple off his back and use submission threats to create space and get back up on the regional scene. He's very well conditioned and very tough. Llontop's biggest issues are with his less than optimal punching form. Despite his power and cardio, his one-note approach, he can be kind of predictable. Llontop has the experience edge, and Ruffy has never seen the scorecards in his career. Ruffy will probably have a big advantage early as the faster and technically sharper striker who needs less reads to land. Ruffy's cardio seen fighting his Contender Series fight, but he kept low activity in that one, and that was up at welterweight, so he might be affected by the weight cut here. He's a very big lightweight. If Llontop survives early, his higher output and toughness can give Ruffy some surprises down the stretch, I feel. Llontop has never been KO'd, while Ruffy, so lost, can't be a strike. So, but yeah, I mean, despite all of this that I said, it is hard to not side with Ruffy as the sharper, more dangerous, and nuanced striker. I feel like Ruffy will be the first one to finish Llontop with strikes. I'm picking a knockout in the second round in favor of Mauricio Ruffy. Okay, Rio Sosen says, what makes the fighting nerds good? I feel like they have solid fundamentals, and I feel it is a camp that can produce, even though it has some commonalities between fighters, they have this like karate Muay Thai approach to their striking. Like they fight out of like this like karate MMA stance, but they apply a lot of like cool like Muay Thai fundamentals, I feel. But the thing about fighting nerds is that I feel like they understand their fighters well, and they mold like a style around them that really works and gives them like good priorities, right? So I feel like so far Fighting Nerds looks like a very good camp that actually looks to win fights in a smart way and without like overly complicating things. Like they give like good tools to fighters and they try to make their fighters adjust as fight goes on. So I feel like Fighting Nerds so far a very good camp. Obviously carried by very good athletes like Jan Silva, Ruffy, Prates, Bohalio. Both, all of them are tremendous athletes who would probably be very good fighting out of any camp, right? Because they just have like all the attributes to be good fighters. But I still feel like Fighting Nerds is doing like a perfectly fine job coaching their fighters. So I like the camp a lot. So what's next? Okay. We have a flyweight bout next between Karine Silva and Viviane Araujo. Araujo, like Danton likes to say. Karine Silva, athletic and confident, She keeps busy at range with jabs, front kicks, and leg kicks. She feints and switches stances to give different looks and find her spots. She carries decent power, especially in her overhand right. Active parrying and distance management make for the bulk of her defense. She makes it work with good eyes and a cool mind though. She uses her overhand right to transition into clinches and takedown attempts very effectively. She's very strong during tie-ups. Athleticism and solid footwork allow her to finish takedowns if she finds a body lock. Karini's single and double leg series is functional and allow her to finish against the fence, and she will also drop down for half guard entries to work her leg lock game. From top, she's the owner of heavy ground and pound, and she's a versatile submission threat, particularly with her front headlock series and her aforementioned leg lock game. Tough and well conditioned, she can be a bit aimless on the feet while also lacking depth. That and being somewhat controllable from top position are her more apparent flaws. Against her we have Araujo, athletic and powerful. Araujo has adopted the role of a veteran as of late, fighting less dynamically and more concerned with control. She mostly likes to walk people down with her jab and 1-2s, looking to set up the overhand or a takedown entry. Mostly gone are the bouncy footwork and constant stance switches that she used to employ in the past. Leg kicks and the threat of the takedown complement her range striking. Araujo will look to work in transition using level changes to land strikes or close into the clinch behind her right hand. Her defense relies a lot on her controlling the initiative moving forwards, employing lean backs, but also framing and hiding behind her lead shoulder. Her wrestling, both offensively and defensively, are helped by her athleticism. She's strong from the body lock with a variety of finishes. She can also finish takedowns attacking the legs against the fence. She's hard to take down. She will dig for underhooks quickly, but fighters have gotten to her hips, swarming her against the fence. She's heavy from top position, she maintains solid base and has very good submission defense, and she usually goes for control over damage from top position. Lack of her former dynamism, lack of depth, and adaptability are her greatest issues. Araujo might trouble Silva if she pushes constantly against the fence, trying to exploit her defense moving back. That said, Karini is similarly athletic and more dynamic, and she's the more relaxed fighter, probably more adaptable at this point. Araujo might try to win this banking on top position, and Silva has been reversed going for submissions in the past. That being said, Silva looks like the more dangerous fighter in every phase nowadays, and I expect her to win the bigger moments here, so I'm picking Silva by decision. I feel like this card will be perfect for the Mick Maynard meme. Man, this card is so bad, man. I mean, it's not a single fight here is that bad, but like this is not pay-per-view material, man. Araujo! Okay, what is Karine Silva paying submission? I was told she's a good finisher. She has a very nasty guillotine, but she has finished with a bunch of different stuff like leg locks, the rear naked choke. I think she has finishes from her back to it. She's very experienced, man. I'm pretty sure she has like a lot of like variety. Like, yeah, she has wins with arm bars, triangles from her back, heel hooks, guillotines, darces. He's very solid from the front headlock, but her guillotine is legit. He has a very good guillotine. Watch out for that if you're interested. Karine Silva is a very solid prospect, and she's very experienced. She actually has more fights than Araujo, who is going to play like she's going to play the veteran here, right? So let's get into the next one. Oh my god, this one is the one that I hate the most, man. Next, we have a middleweight bout between Bo Nickal and Paul Craig. Okay, so Nickal, a very good athlete, prodigious wrestler who has adapted very well for the submission grappling so far. Bo Nickal seems at the very least a competent striker on the feet with big power and a good feeling for timing and distance. He also understands the change-up between his takedown threat and he strikes well. That said, there's a bit of disconnect between his striking and his wrestling. He hasn't quite figured good entries so far. His striking defense looks bare bones so far, but not awful. Managing space well, covering up, and even firing counters at the right moments. Being stuffed early in open space and stalled against defense have given us the only moments of Nickal looking mediocre so far. Other than that, his chain wrestling has looked tremendous. Apart from a couple of early knockouts, he has been able to submit every opponent he has faced so far. He's very good at punishing get-ups, transitioning from rights and mat returns into back takes or dominant top positions well. So far, he likes finishing with the rear naked choke and the arm triangle, and he usually plays the change-up between the two. Other than his athleticism and good feel for fighting, a lot about him is still unknown. Let's go to Paul Craig. A long and awkward kickboxer when it comes to striking, Craig is surprisingly mobile on the feet, circling around the cage with ease. Most of his offense on the feet comes in the form of kicks that he set up with short combinations or behind feints. Not much of a boxer, he does have a stiff straight punches that carry a sneaky amount of power. Defense relies a lot on length as he usually backs up in straight lines and his head doesn't move during exchanges. Craig is not a technical wrestler. He's big and strong at 185 and has decent level change to finish his body locks and double legs, be it against the fence or in open space. If his takedown fails, he's a solid clinch fighter with knees and elbows. Craig is not afraid to pull guard from the clinch if he has a strong overhook. Not terrible defending takedowns. He at times just accepts the entries to get his bottom game going. From the bottom, he moves people well with butterflies and can transition to leg attacks if given any space. But he's at his most effective playing his armbar triangle game with his very quick hips. From half guard, he also uses lockdown to destabilize foes and will look for sweeps or transitions to the legs. He can be stalled by strong top players if they don't give him too much to work with, especially if he gets stuck against the fence. From top position, he's solid with good passing and damaging with elbows if he gets to posture up. Cardio and shin are solid. A striking defense and willingness to play from the bottom are his biggest problems. This might be fun if Craig is able to create any kind of space from the bottom and they get into like scrambling mode. That being said, Nickal has probably scouted him well and has seen other top players control him and knows what to look for. On the feet, length and kicks from Craig might give Nickal issues, but Nickal is quicker and might just be a straight up better boxer here. There are avenues for Craig, but they seem very small. It is clear the UFC is looking to climb Bo up the rankings with a favorable matchup. I'm picking Nickal by submission in round 2. Okay. Let's get back. Scottish 4-2 against UFC Southpaws. Oh, that's very interesting, man. I didn't know that Paul Craig has a good record against Southpaws, man. Did you know that Bo Nickal is a Barry Robinson fighter? How he read? No, man, I had no idea, man. I didn't know about that. So this question from Jean, protect your neck, regular. Is Bo Nickal the great white hope like Brendan Schaub calls him? Probably, I feel like the UFC really likes Bo Nickal, right? I don't know why, man, because like, I don't really know because I don't care if someone likes Bo Nickal, but like, he has like no personality. He's probably not going to have the most exciting style against actual good fighters. So like, what are you banking on? Are you banking on Americans going like, oh, he's white and American just like me, so I'm going to buy the pay-per-view? Because like, is that even working anymore? I'm not sure, man. I feel like Bo Nickal has a very bland personality. And he doesn't have like a distinctive look. he's very athletic and obviously he's a good wrestler. I mean, a fantastic wrestler, but I don't get what the UFC is seeing. Like this, Bo Nickal is going to be the guy. Like unless they're like looking for that big like Bo Nickal versus Hamza Chimaev fight, that could be big if they put a lot of money into the promotion, especially because it puts like the American wrestling like honor on the line. So that's something that might sell some tickets. But otherwise, like if Bo Nickal goes to fight for the title, like after this, I don't think a lot of people is going to give a shit, to be honest. I don't. So, but yeah, I mean the UFC loves Bo Nickal, so maybe he is the great white hope. And with that, we get to the co-main event, and it is a rematch of a championship fight, but this time not for the title. But it's still scheduled for 5 rounds. We have a fight between Charles to Bronx Oliveira against Michael Chandler. So this is like a very good fight on paper, but I feel like it is a waste of time with the current state of the lightweight division, wasting both fighters on a rematch. I understand that maybe the UFC feels like they kind of owe Michael Chandler at this stage after like losing his time with the whole Conor McGregor stuff, but yeah, I mean, I'm. It's obviously going to be exciting because it's like Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, right? But I don't know, man. I'm not. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. It's probably going to be fun, especially live, especially after what might be a lot of bad fights, but or underwhelming fights at the very least. But yeah, I mean, what are the dynamics we saw on their first fight? Neither fighter have changed a lot. They might actually both be worse than they were on that first fight, but not like drastically. So what are the dynamics here? Chandler can bump from the outside and he can catch Charles Oliveira over the top. Even when Oliveira is trying to hide behind his lead shoulder, Chandler can still find that big right hand. And if Oliveira like tries to move back a little bit, the left hook can always come after that, right? So that's what Chandler has going on. Oliveira on his part, he has the kicks to the body. The left hook with which he finished the fight the first time around is going to be an ever-present threat. So yeah, the striking is pretty much like it favors Oliveira on the long run, but it puts him in danger very early. Grappling could be interesting. Chandler was like escaping, like he escaped like the back take from Oliveira on the first time around. So maybe Chandler is going to look for like a top control base game this time around, and that might work. We just saw like Arman Sarukian putting that doubt on Charles Oliveira on the fight. Not that Charles Oliveira broke in that fight. I thought like obviously he remained very dangerous as the fight went on, especially because he was still like looking for submissions during transitions and all of that. So I don't think like Charles Oliveira was quitting in that Sarukian fight. But what you saw in that Sarukian fight is that the striking of Oliveira got a lot more muted once he knew that he had to fear the takedown, right? We saw a much more like reserved Charles Oliveira on the feet, a lot more or less output, more willing to step back, and that could be things that favor Michael Chandler in this rematch. Chandler actually has a lot of the same attributes that Sarukian has, and he's a bigger puncher as well. So Michael Chandler for sure has that. Obviously, you still need to be careful when taking Charles Oliveira down. We saw Sarukian, who is like a tremendous scrambler, got into some like scary moments on the ground against Shoki. But yeah, Chandler is also a very good grappler, man. So, I mean, he escaped the back take from Oliveira in the first fight. So yeah, I mean, and even if they both fight like they did the first time around, nothing tells me that Oliveira is going to survive this time around, right? That was like a very coin flippy fight. Any fighter could have won that night, I feel. It was just that Oliveira got the better of it. All that being said, I feel like Chandler has taken more damage since that fight, right? Um, and and I feel like Oliveira is still like feels he's there. Chandler is obviously very driven, but he's like the older guy. Not more fights, I feel. I'm not sure. Let me check actually, but who has more fights between them? Charles Oliveira has 44 fights. Chandler only has 31. So yeah, Oliveira a lot more experience. But Chandler has been taking damage on his last few fights. So if any of the two is going to show up worse this time around, it's probably going to be Chandler. And if you give any margins since the last fight to this one, I feel like this one is still very coin flippy. Like any guy could win. Both guys are so dangerous. And both guys are like super vulnerable as well. So it's going to be an action-packed fight. I'm sorry I'm not sounding like super excited about this. It's just that the matchmaking, I'm not feeling it. But it's going to be a good fight. Like it's Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. Like these guys are completely incapable of having a bad fight. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if Chandler goes the top gaming route, and he has like good solid ground pound when he like opens up, but that can be a bit sketchy. I feel like especially if this is 5 rounds, if it goes long, if Chandler doesn't find the early knockout, Oliveira is going to be punishing the body. He's going to find the left hook again. And Oliveira always has like the club and sub option, so I'm going that way. I'm feeling like Oliveira is going to hurt Chandler and the round 2 again, but this time he's going to seal the deal with a submission. So it's Charles Oliveira by submission on the second round. That's the final pick. So let's get right back into the chat, guys. Okay. Rio says, do you hate people who get pushed by the UFC? Most of the time. I feel like, yeah, a little bit. Sometimes I like a guy that the UFC likes, like I like Dustin Poirier. But the UFC hated Poirier for a little while, but until he was like the most exciting fighter in the sport, right? But yeah, I mean, it depends. But most of the time, I feel like, yeah, it can be annoying when the UFC gets behind a guy too much. That says, Bo Nickal sounds like a Joe Rogan and Cameron Hines podcast on repeat. Oh god, man. You're doing him more dirty than I did. Ghost says Oliveira to Chandler is a waste of time. It was chaos the first time. I'm sure it will be chaos this time, but nothing is on the line. Yeah, that's exactly what I feel like. Just put them against other people, get the division going, right? That's why I'm not super hyped. Like some people really want Poirier to fight like Gaethje and Oliveira again. And I'm not so sure about those. Like I know Poirier is probably going to retire, so he's going to want to fight. Probably going to get a rematch, either if it is Chandler, Oliveira, Gaethje, Max Holloway, one of those, right? But it's like for the retirement fight, so I can understand that, not to defend Poirier here. But here, if both guys want to keep at it, if they want to part like be contenders, I feel like this rematch makes no sense, especially with both guys coming off losses. They should be giving their spots to guys lower down the rankings. You could have done like Chandler versus Dariush. I feel like the UFC probably feels like they owe Michael Chandler, so they're not going to give him like a low profile fight against Dariush. I don't know, man. They could have given either of these guys like Paddy Pimblett, right? I know it's stupid, everyone hates Paddy, but that makes it interesting, right? This one is like so uninteresting. I mean, it's going to be fun. Again, I feel like this is going to be a very good fight to watch. But where does this put us? Like the winner of this, where does the winner go from here? What is the winner of this fight proving inside the division? Like we saw, like Oliveira versus Sarukian was very interesting because it was Sarukian finally getting his chance at breaking into the lead of the division. Same with Benoit Saint-Denis against Poirier. Maybe it was Chandler's time to give an up-and-comer a chance. And the biggest name that you have out there is Paddy, right? So you get, and I understand that it's not super justifiable, like rankings wise and all of that, but I still feel like I would rather see Paddy against either of these guys, other than seeing this rematch. Let's check with the chat. Rio says Chandler right straight to the body versus Oliveira picture perfect left hook. I mean, the right straight to the body can be a very good tool, man. And to be honest, like, not a lot of people have punished Chandler. Chandler actually pretty decent mechanics because he extends a lot, he hides behind his lead shoulder, so it can still be dangerous, especially when he's retracting. That's where Oliveira might catch him with the left hook again, because that's what happened in the first fight, right? Then Tom, UFC matchmaker laser than a season 8 of Game of Thrones writers. Yeah, man, the rematch, the constant rematch. Like, what the fuck is Volkov versus Gan? What is that? Keep the division moving, man. A lot of these rematches give us nothing as fans. Dr. Jones, hey, hello, man. Showing up to say that JVG is a false GOAT. All respect to the real GOAT from Rio. Yeah, I totally agree with that. James Kendrick says, why do people forget that Chandler in Bellator was really boring if he can finish in the first round? Yeah, I mean, because Chandler in the UFC has been a fucking maniac. I was talking with my dear friend Ed Gall some time ago, and he's like super sure that Chandler had like a meeting with the UFC executives, with Dana and shit, and he was like, listen guys, if you pay me good money, I'm going to go maniac inside there. You will never have to worry about me being boring. And I feel like Chandler has made up for his word, because he has been fighting like a fucking crazy dude, even though it has meant that he's been losing most of his fights. You cannot deny that Chandler in the UFC has been exciting as shit, man. But yeah, I mean, most people have not seen Chandler outside the UFC. That's fine. That's right, Madlock Fight Talk. Should Chandler just ban Axe Kids? But more seriously, is it bad that Oliveira has taken more damage while Chandler has around? I mean, yeah, that's another factor, right? Chandler has taken more damage since their fight, but Chandler is coming like super well rested into this fight. And Oliveira was taking damage from Sarukian like not long ago, and he has been in fight camps. He has been getting damage in fight camps. You know Charles Oliveira spars hard, so I think the weight cut for Chandler is going to extra suck. He waited 2 years for a fight at 170. Yeah, he looked like sucked in, right? It seems like this weight cut, like, I don't know, man. We'll see. At the end, Chandler has good gas tank. I mean, we have seen him getting tired in fights, but that's like fighting like a maniac. So I feel like AG is essentially out of contention, so a boring rematch makes sense as a last hurrah for both. Yeah, I agree. That would be fine. That's not wasting anyone's time. Shriram says Paddy Dariush, so I kill myself on stream. Oh man, that would be awful, man. I am a non-game hater, but legit might as well give him the Aspinall fight to give Tom something to do. Yeah, pretty much. Melo says it's insane that Chandler was fighting like a madman during the Alvarez fights, then stopping doing it, then started doing it again. Yeah, pretty much, man. Chandler was trying to be like a smart guy against like Phil Brooks, like against Henderson. I think he had his moments of craziness, but he was trying to actually win fights. Now he just jolos the shit out of this UFC run. Does it annoy you that Chandler might get a title shot if he loses? Nah, Chandler is not getting a title shot if he loses. I hope. To be honest, like Chandler versus Makhachev, I would watch the shit out of that. It's so undeserved, but I would watch it. Chandler seems a great archetype to randomly beat guys he's a lot worse than. The only time that has happened in the UFC is Hooker, kinda. Which should be happening more. I mean, yeah, it's just that Chandler has been fighting such a high level of opposition, right? Like the worst guys that Chandler has faced are like Gaethje and Hooker, and they are super good, so Okay, let's get into the main event, man. Let's get into the fucking main event. And with that, we came to the main event. Jon Jones defends his title against Stipe Miocic. What are we doing here? This is not, you can tell by my voice, this is not Topuria versus Holloway. Oh man. Oh man. Okay, so Jon Jones won the title against Sirgan nearly 2 years ago. And Stipe, who we haven't seen in almost 4 years, is coming off getting brutally knocked out by Francis Ngannou in his last appearance. He retired after that fight and now he's coming back. So this is like a whole legacy fight. The GOAT status on the line and all that bullshit. And all because Jon Jones doesn't want to face Tom Aspinall, right? I'm not excited about this fight. I watch every fight. I watch way worse fights than this. So no one should be surprised that I'm going to tune in for this fight. It's also like kind of my job to watch fights. So what's the deal here? I don't know, man. We have like 37 years old Jon Jones against 42 years old Stipe. Jon Jones looked pretty good in that fight against Gunn, even though it was like a super awful performance by Gunn. So it is hard to take a lot from that, right? While Stipe, I felt like Stipe looked pretty old in that final Daniel Cormier fight. Didn't look that old because he was fighting a guy that was way older than him in DC. And then Stipe looked so bad in that fight against Ngannou when he lost the title. He looked so bad in that fight. Low output, show up to the fight like super light. His reflexes looked gone. He was not doing much. It was like all the signs of a guy that is like past it, like bad time. So what's the hope here for this to be a good fight? Is that all the time off has served Stipe well, and Stipe shows up in like a decent form and gives us a good fight. This is not going to be Prime versus Prime. And there are some sketchy circumstances around this fight. Let's not mention that the UFC is going back to the old gloves just for Jon Jones. Like, that's weird, but it's like not like super important, but it's weird, right? One thing that it's curious to me is that Jon Jones is going to show up light for this fight. He was supposedly bulking for like 3 years to finally fight at heavyweight, and when he fought Gunn, he showed up like at 250 something, pretty big, carrying around some fat, right? But you can tell that Jon Jones put on a decent bulk, and now it seems like he's going to show up light, and I feel like Jones has some insider information about Stipe here. That he knows that Stipe is not going to show up like super big, that maybe like quickness is going to be a thing that he might want to have the edge here. So let's talk a little bit about how this would play out like Prime versus Prime, because that would be a super interesting fight. That would be fire. That was a fight that a lot of us nerds wanted like 5 or more years ago. And I feel like Stipe kind of a bad matchup for Jon Jones. He can do a lot of the Gustafsson stuff. Not exactly the same, but yeah, I mean, Stipe has like pretty decent reach. He's the same height as Jon Jones. Jon Jones has the reach, obviously, but Stipe has like a very good jab and a very stiff jab. And that was something that Gustafsson used against Jones. Stipe is a very good wrestler. Under Prime, Stipe was a big, strong dude. Usually showed up like around like 240, 238, 242. But was like in very good shape. Very strong during tie-ups. And Stipe was very good at range. That was always his game, like the jab, the 1-2s, playing a lot with the jab. So it was very interesting to imagine like Stipe fighting off against Jon Jones, who you would expect to play on the outside with his kicks, changing stances, and how Stipe would approach that. But now the fight doesn't look like that, right? I don't expect Stipe to be super active. Hopefully he is aggressive out of the gate. I think it would be good for him, especially because he took so much time out. Maybe he feels a bit refreshed despite being so old. But what Stipe needs to do in this fight, he needs to get on Jones' face and put the jab in his face immediately. He can do some of the stuff that Gustafsson did, some of the stuff that Reyes did, even though Reyes is a southpaw, but a lot of the stuff like the straight shots down, especially like straight shots to the chest, were very effective by Reyes, disrupted a lot of Jon Jones stuff. Stipe can do that, like just throw like hard jabs to the neck, chest, solar plexus area, just to keep busy, try to find that right hand, try to exploit the weakness of Jon Jones' boxing game, especially inside the pocket. What Jon Jones should do here, I feel like, move on the outside, switch stances, punish with kicks to the body and to the legs. You know, those kicks to the body and legs are very hard on all fighters. They are very troublesome for them. Try his luck inside the clinch. Maybe Jones can find some elbows and knees inside the clinch. Stipe has been kind of mid inside the clinch. Even in his prime, we saw some vulnerabilities by Stipe in the clinch against Junior Dos Santos in their first fight. Then we saw against Cormier, Stipe against Struve as well. Stipe can be a bit sketchy inside the clinch, and especially if he doesn't have the eyes that he used to have, he might get hit very hard there, especially by an elbow or something. Do I think Jon Jones is going to show up to wrestle here? Considering that he's showing up light, I don't think that Jon Jones is going to look to wrestle here. He's probably going to look to jab and kick, especially to the body and head, to keep Stipe at bay. And maybe if he gets like Stipe looks like too done, Jon Jones is going to drag him to the ground and put to use his very good ground and pound. That's what I would expect. So yeah, let's get back into what Stipe can do. Stipe out of the gate needs to Stipe needs to make Jon Jones move on the outside, limit his ability to kick, needs to be active with the jab, keep an active jab, body, head, vary targets. Then try to find the right hand, especially when Jon Jones tried to frame. That's where you close the distance aggressively, put the right hand over the top. You know that Jon Jones struggles when they have like height and reach parity. And just do that, man. Like, do the Stipe stuff. Then just start piling up the body shots. Start punishing him. If Jon Jones tries to grab a clinch, one thing that Stipe does very good inside the clinch is just like pivoting and try to find a knee or a punch during the break. Do not get into like a slow clinching where I feel like Stipe is not that good. Stipe should not try to like push Jones against the fence, try to wrestle like... Because I expect Jon Jones to have the better cardio of the two at this stage, even at the prime. So Stipe should play like not super like pressuring, try to get Jones against the fence and put combination boxing together, even though I think that would work. But you know, that's not really Stipe's game. Stipe has never liked to box people against the fence. So I feel like Stipe needs to keep active, try to hit Jon Jones out of breaks. Be active with the jab, try to set up the right hand the whole fight. That I would say that's it. Mix the jab with the slapping left hook. You know, Stipe has never been like a super like tight, powerful left hooker, but he does the change up with the slapping left hook, like landing with this part of the fingers. So I think he could do that. That would be like the route for Stipe, in my opinion. Just pile up the damage, especially if you can open with longer combinations. Go with the left hook to the body, straight right to the body. When Jon Jones is trying to circle, try to pivot with him, and then track him with the right hand, right? And then when you make him frustrated, when Jon Jones is trying to close the distance, you try to clip him with the short right hand, the legendary Stipe finisher. That would be the route for Stipe. For Jon Jones, it's very clear. Stay at range, a lot of like oblique kicks to the knees, kicks to the body and head, pile up damage, test in the clinch, push against the fence, try to find elbows and knees, stay dynamic. Take advantage that Stipe is not really a leg kicker, so move around on the inside. Take advantage of that. Maybe Jon Jones could go himself the way of the leg kicks that have been effective against Miocic quite a few times. And then once Stipe is tired, you can test the waters with the wrestling if you're Jon Jones. So I would say that would be like the game plan for both guys. I do not have a lot of faith in Stipe showing up in good shape. So I'm picking Jon Jones to finish this fight on the second round with a TKO. I'm feeling like it's going to be the kicking. Something is going to land eventually that puts Stipe, like probably not out, but it's going to drag him to the ground. And you know Jon Jones has brutal ground and pound. So that would be my pick. I'm picking Jon Jones to get a TKO on the second round. Let me get back to the chat. Okay, Shreya says of Stipe, this is such a stupid fight now though. People clown on Chandler, but he has very competitive fight with 3 former interim champs and a guy who beat him to become champion. Yeah, pretty much. Chandler has been solid in the UFC. Like, people like to meme on him. He has been in some fights, man, with very good fighters. So I think like Chandler in the UFC, very respectable. Go says, I only heard of a legacy fight when this fight was made last year. Why are the dogs defending this nonsense? Because the UFC fanboys are going to defend anything, right? The main event is the worst fight on this card. Silva is 42 years old and has problem walking. What annoys me the most about the Jon Jones fans are the people repeating his sacking points. Yeah, it's super annoying, man. It's like I mean, you can kind of justify it when Jon Jones is saying it. Like, it still sucks, right? But at least it makes a little bit of sense when it is Jon Jones the one saying that stupid crap. But when a fan is saying like, oh, Jon Jones doesn't need to give Tomás Pinal a shot, right? Man. They're getting rid of the gloves completely. Honestly, no surprise. Yeah, the glove shit is really weird. Like, even if the new gloves are like not good, they are probably still better than the old gloves because they were made with a little bit of research. And you need more fights to get any kind of data, right? I feel like a streak of few knockouts is just a chance. It's not really a statistic anomaly. It's totally within the realm of possibility. So I think it's kind of stupid, to be honest. And to be honest, I never liked the gold ones, but it's still like a cool concept. And now I think they are going back to black gloves for everything. That's kind of boring. I like the Contender Series gloves, the Road to UFC gloves, Ultimate Fighter gloves. That all of that was pretty cool. I hope they do like new gloves very soon. Dan Tom says Stipe eyes aren't the same. Can't see the shots coming, sadly. Yeah, pretty much. I thought like he was like very concerned about the power of Ngannou. Obviously, Jon Jones doesn't have the power of Ngannou. But if the reactions are not there, I can see a head kick or something landing, man. Is Stipe's team the worst team ever? They said that Stipe came out with the DC body shot on his own, which is not good film work. Yeah, that's pretty indicting on him, right? And I don't think Stipe added much to his game. He was pretty much a finished product, like super early in the UFC. And then he got like into a good streak, right? It's not Stipe that was champion is not very different, if at all, than the Stipe that lost very clearly against Junior Dos Santos. In a very good fight, that where Stipe looked very good. That was like the last great Junior Dos Santos performance, to be honest. But still, I don't think the Stipe that was champion was like a markedly better fighter than that one, to be honest. Shriram says, if Stipe were only a little old or rusty, I would expect a game so Protean to actually age kind of okay. Yeah, 1-2's work for old guys. But he's very old and rusty, as you're saying, so it's not as easy to trust, right? James Kendrick says, I hear on Heavy Hands that both Jon Jones and Edwards do not like being in the pocket. Is that true? I feel like Jon Jones a lot worse than Leon Edwards inside the pocket, but he's a bit more confident. Jon Jones is still kind of hated, but Jon Jones has like the insane shin. Jon Jones, I mean, both guys have the option of going to the clinch. I feel like Leon Edwards likes the pocket when he's dictating because he can like frame off, line his cool uppercuts, that kind of stuff. But yeah, both guys, neither of them are like very big fans of being inside the pocket. So I think I agree with the heavy hand boys on that one. Madlock Fight Talk says, kind of surprised by that take. I think Stipe would benefit from getting close, clinching, pressing Jones to the cage. I don't think that, because I think Jon Jones is superior to Stipe, and Stipe at this stage is probably not going to be even the stronger guy inside the entanglements. Like Jon Jones is very strong, especially when he gets like wrist control and that kind of that. And you can tell that Jon Jones is a lot better burst in the clinch because he's like more comfortable from a lot of different positions. We've seen like Jon Jones work from overhook and wrist control, from collar ties, from over-unders, from a lot of stuff. And Stipe, when we have seen like extended clinching from Stipe in the fights against DC, in the fight against Junior Dos Santos, Stipe's kind of mid inside the clinch, man. Dan Tom says, forgot to say it in my breakdown for the first time in forever when talking Jones, but unless you're hardwired to counter kicks, you likely don't have a chance to be competitive against Jones. Yeah. And of course, Stipe is bad against kickers. Like, yeah, I mean, Stipe has some ideas. I think you're mentioning the Rosario fight in your next comment, but he has some idea to deal with kickers. But he's not great, man. If he isn't finding counters of kicks, he's going to get picked apart. That's why I think the alternate route is making it ugly against Genshin as much as possible. Again, I don't feel like Jon Jones. I don't feel like Stipe wins a super clinch heavy fight, just because I feel like Jon Jones is going to own him inside the clinch with elbows, with knees. He's going to reverse him. He's more comfortable from a variety of grips. He has like a very good language of trips. He has a quicker level change inside the clinch. I just feel like Jon Jones is way more dangerous fighter inside the clinch. Shuriam says, feel like Stipe being so upright and narrow makes the linear kicks a little tough, to be fair. But yeah, I do expect him to struggle since I'm not sure he has the confidence to pressure well. Yeah, I mean, Stipe is like decent walking people to the fence, but I'm not super sure he has like a super like pressure game, comprehensive pressure game at this time. Melo says this fight is like Randy Couture versus Minotauro Nogueira, but with really bad vibes. At least everyone recognized it was just a fun fight to make and not some goat shit. Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, Couture versus Minotauro, everyone was like, oh yeah, both are like old and kind of washed, but it's whatever, man. Like, and that was for the interim, right? Or was that for the actual heavyweight champion? Very drawn the linear kicks, and Stipe doesn't give as hard as necessary. Yeah, I think that the head kicks are not like super dangerous to catch Stipe like sleeping. I just think he can just land it eventually over the top, right? Against kickers like Del Rosario, Rim, or even JDS like kicks Steve a little bit clueless. Yeah, yeah. Shriram says, I think Steve's answer to the kicks is classically to just have the efficient footwork and directionality to grow guys. Yeah, pretty much. But Jon Jones is actually decent at moving on the outside. I expect like Jon Jones actually better footwork, better at using kicks to open up space to move than someone like Junior Dos Santos. Given how he even more frozen he was whenever Ngannou flashed a southpaw stance. Yeah, I think Jon Jones is going to show up southpaw a lot in this fight. 100 on that being Stipe's approach. Mike Tyson has a more recent win than Stipe. I mean, that wasn't actually a win, but yeah, we all know that Mike Tyson won that fight, right? If Jon wins, he will have one win over one activity. In terms of MMA fans, do you think most know that this fight is terrible? No, not at all. I think some people are realizing that they are old. They are not at his best. I think a lot of people think that Jon Jones is the guy at heavyweight just because he beat Gall, who hasn't lost other than to Francis in a very close fight, right? So people don't understand that like Gall fucked up in that fight. So people think like, oh, Jon Jones is really him, you know? Like people think like Jon Jones did like something very great against beating Gall, and it was mostly like Gall doing something very stupid, and Jon Jones, props to him, obviously capitalizing on a very big mistake. But I don't think it was like, oh, Jon Jones showing levels here. I don't think it was that at all, to be honest. And not to discredit, like Jon Jones did what he had to do against Gall, but I feel like Gall not showing up to that fight did rob Jon Jones the ability to show up how good he is at this stage at heavyweight. Why do I feel like people have been talking about Jon Jones versus Stipe since 2012? Because people have been talking about this fight since like 2014, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, I get to the outro. And that's the pay-per-view, guys. As I said during the intro, I'm not super excited about this one. Yeah, I mean, this is like not a good card. I'm not excited about the main event. Co-main event is a good fight, but it doesn't really like do much for me, especially because it doesn't progresses the division, right? So yeah, let's give a quick like rundown of the fights. I'll tell you what fights I feel are going to be good. The opener, Veronica Hardy versus Eduarda Moura. Big chance this is not like super exciting. Maybe if Hardy keeps it on the feet and does some cool stuff from southpaw, kicking the body and that kind of stuff, but not a lot of high hopes. Elliott versus Basil Hafez is probably going to be like a bit of a banger. Not like insanely exciting because like Elliott, who I am expecting to win, is not like the most exciting fighter, but Hafez, you know, is going to bring it. He's going to push hard, and Elliott is a solid fighter, so that's fine. Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj could be fun if it gets sloppy, but it could also be like pretty bad. I hope they grapple a little bit and they get into some cool scrambles. Tybura versus Diniz has a small chance of being a fun fight, but it also has a chance to look terrible. Roberto Romero versus David Onama is going to be okay. Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson is going to be fun, probably. Chris Wideman versus Eric Anders is going to be depressing and it's going to suck. Martinez versus McGhee, that's the good fight. That's my pick for the best fight of the night. Even over Oliveira versus Chandler, even though it's like a lower profile fight, less important to the division and all that, I still think it's like the fight that excites me the most, and that's saying something because I like Martinez versus McGhee a lot, but it's not like a fight that I go crazy about, right? Ruffy versus Llontop is my sleeper hit of the night. This fight is going to be very fun, either if it is like a super early hoofy knockout, or they have like long and they have like kind of a war. I expect this fight to be a lot of fun to watch. Carini Silva versus Araujo, I don't really have much hopes. Carini Silva is fun to watch, she's very good. But Araujo in her current form is a bit boring, to be honest. She's like so control oriented. Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig, I don't really care about this fight. Hopefully Nickal does something cool or Craig pulls off the upset. I don't know, man, but I'm not super excited about this. But yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Just Oliveira versus Mikey Chandler. As I said, I'm going to enjoy this fight, but I'm not super into this matchmaking. And the main event, I'm still curious. I'm going to admit I want to see what's going on, in what shape Stephen Miocic is going to show up. But still, like, doesn't do a lot for me. I would say this is the worst pay-per-view of the year. I've been defending most of the pay-per-views. I think I said one was not very good, like not long ago. I think it was like the Pereira versus Roundtree, maybe. But this one is not it, man. I don't like this. I don't like this pay-per-view. Martinez versus McGhee is on the prelims. So, am I going to be doing a fight companion? Probably for the whole main card. Maybe I'll try to sneak in like Martinez versus McGhee, so we can watch together, because this is not going to be super fun, so you can catch me there. And that's it, guys. That's the pay-per-view. I don't think very highly of this one. Thank you everyone for listening to this recorded version of the podcast. I'm still going to answer some stuff when I get back to the live version. But remember that if you want to support the Fight Site as an ongoing project, you can head over to Patreon. Links in the description. And you can support me with a little bit of money. And you can get access to exclusive content and to our Discord server that is very cool. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it so much. And I'll see you on the fights, even though they are not going to be great. I'm Feño signing out. Okay, that's for the recorded version of the podcast. Let's get back into the chat for a little bit. Let's hang out for a little bit. Why do I feel like people have been talking about John? I don't know. Do cards like this make you unhappy? Like, not really. Like, it's a drag to wait till my Saturday on a very bad card. But it's okay. It's not make me unhappy. Like, I'm a very passionate MMA fan, but it's like it doesn't going to ruin my life, you know. Madlock Fight Talk says I vote to have Donkey Kong in the background during this for the music. Hey, maybe I could maybe put some music. I have to find out how do you play music in the background. I used to have like background music in some of my podcasts, and people said that they found it to be distracting. So we'll see. We can see if people are in favor of that. James Kendrick fight companion, probably for Martinez versus McGhee and the whole main card. Even though I'm not excited, like, yeah, let's do a fight companion for the whole thing for anyone that wants to join. Who has the worst MMA fan base? Maybe Chimaev? John Jones and Colby. No, yeah, scrap. Chimaev, the Chimaev fans are fine. Next to Colby Covington fans, next to John Jones fans. Those are the worst, to be honest. Ronan says, Feño, what's the best matchup they could make in the UFC right now? I don't know, man. I think like maybe Evloev versus Topuria. It would be something that I'm very excited about. Also Sarukian versus Makhachev. That would be great too. When it comes to bantamweight, I don't know. There's like super great matchup at bantamweight right now. But yeah, I feel like those two are like the ones that would excite me the most. I would say like, yeah, I would be very interested in seeing like Evloev versus Topuria, even though I don't think Evloev's chances are that big. But I would be very excited about that one, especially because it would be like Evloev in championship form. I think he has very good cardio. He has a solid style. He's a better striker than he gets credit for. So I think that would be a very good fight. Uh, Arnold Allen versus Topuria would be something interesting. I don't think Arnold Allen is that high level of a fighter, but he brings it, and he brings like a smart approach into most fights, despite being like somewhat limited. So I would think a fight with him and Topuria would make for something very exciting. And yeah, I mean, Sarukian versus Makhachev, the rematch would be like tremendous. I think that would be a very good fight. Sami Arnett says, hello, I think I'm too late. Yeah, I mean, I'm wrapping things up, but we can hang out for a little bit. How do you create good MMA opinions? Do I have to watch tape like you guys, or can I do something else? I don't really have an eye for analysis, but I like the sport. I mean, if you inform yourself, like there's a lot of like educational stuff from like analysts on Twitter, or there are like resources like instructional videos, that kind of stuff. You can learn more about the sport. I mean, good opinions, like some opinions are like super subjective. So as long as like you're aware that some things are opinions, are not facts, I think that's fine. But the more you learn and the more you watch, the better. Just to be honest, like do not turn watching MMA into like a chore, especially if you're just a fan. Like enjoy the sport. Look out for recommendations for cool fights, especially if you have like a type of fight. Like if you have like, for example, you have a fight that involves a lot of like pocket boxing. Look out for recommendations for that. And watch those fights and enjoy it, and look for the stuff that you enjoy about fights, and you will learn more like that, I feel. You don't necessarily need to be like a good analyst or something, but I think it's very cool to learn the sport, learn about the sport. I feel like it makes you appreciate the sport in a new level. I feel it's not that you need to be like a super nerd, but I feel like a fight like, for example, like Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes, or Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 2 are fights that are a lot better when you understand what's going on. You don't really need to understand every single stuff that is happening, but you need to understand, like, you need a baseline understanding of the techniques and that kind of stuff, and tactics and strategy and that kind of stuff. Once you understand that, I feel like you can appreciate the sport in a new lens, and the emotions that a good fight gives you are a lot stronger when you're not like driven only by fanatism, but it's driven by love of the sport. I feel like I'm a fan of very few fighters, but I'm a big fan of a sport, of MMA as a sport, right? I love watching good MMA. I have my preferences. Some styles that I rather watch than others. So I still sometimes, even if I don't have like a personal attachment to fighters, I still root for fighters that I have like the more appealing style to me. But that's part of the fun too, right? But I feel like just try to learn, watch fights that you like, read some stuff. Madlock Fight Talk says, time will help, watching fight helps. Feño, Jack Slack, training, you should search BJJ Scout. Oh yeah, BJJ Scout, all videos are very good too. Dan Tom has a bunch of amazing work. I have done a lot of videos about MMA that maybe you can learn from in the Fight Site channel. Ryan Wagner is another like tremendous resource, and there are like new guys putting in some very cool stuff out there too, like Ghost, like Movement Marshall. There are good stuff out there. Check out the Fight Site. There are a lot of articles for a lot of smart people. There are Shriram, Gallo, then Martin. Just check out that stuff. Maybe some of that will interest you. Maybe get into other combat sports too, especially if you like striking. I would recommend like watch some kickboxing, boxing, Muay Thai. Find something that you like and enjoy, and learn more about the sport. I like a lot. I like educating people about MMA, not because I feel like, oh, I have this like secret knowledge that I want to share. I just feel like I like to help people understand the sport better, because the sport is more enjoyable like that. Yeah, watching MMA outside the UFC is also a very good recommendation. Watching low level MMA, like I see like that one of the reasons that I do this full preview and I talk about every fight from the very first prelim and I give respect to every fighter involved is because I feel like you can learn a lot from like low level, middle level. It's not everything about the greatest fights. I feel like that's why I post clips from fighters that are like maybe like low tier UFC fighters, and I go like, oh, this is very cool, and maybe that's something that you can try when you're training. Maybe when you go to the gym, you can try this cool little stuff that a fighter did, or maybe you don't want to train at all, but maybe when you know what's an octopus guard sweep and you see it, you go like, okay, that's pretty neat. you know but I feel like the sport is more enjoyable. I feel like some people get like into a negative space, like when they learn about the sport they are like, I cannot enjoy anything unless it is like Max Holloway versus Joe Selden, and I'm like the opposite. Like there's a lot of like mid-level, low-level fights that are very interesting because they still have like interesting stuff. Uh, do you like Ryan Wagner's voice? Hey guys. Madlock says I was camera operator for regional shows and King of the Cage. Oh, that's very cool, man. That's very cool, man. Watching a lot of like live MMA really gives you a very good perspective. That's very interesting, man. But yeah, I mean, just watch a lot of stuff. Maybe just watch like low level stuff. Try to figure out some stuff. Try to figure out what the fighters are doing. I think it's just like you don't need to do that, but if you want to get a little bit better, you can enjoy the sport more. And it's also like I think it's healthier to enjoy the sport for the sport more than for the fighters, mostly because most fighters are like bad people. No, I don't think it's very healthy to create these like parasocial relationships with athletes. I feel like we need to admire athletes for the athleting that they do, not not to put them on a pedestal as like great persons or role models or that kind of stuff. Ronan says, Fight Side honestly taught me how even lower level fighters can do cool and good things. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's very cool when a fighter has like a gimmick, even though they are never going to be champion. But he's like, oh, this guy is all about this Kimura from all kind of position. I think that's so fun. It's so interesting to watch. Who is the worst content creator? I try to not consume content from. I try to not consume content from guys that I don't like, but what I've seen from like guys from Guru and that kind of stuff, like I'm not a fan of that, man. Especially because it's just so based on like rage baiting, on like it's like rage porn kind of stuff. It doesn't really interest me. I don't think it brings a lot to the table. He's constantly like insulting fighters, disrespecting the guys. I don't like that, to be honest. You're talking about Davy Grant, Ronan. He's very cool. Davy Grant, he has like such weird mechanics, but he punches so hard, and he has a knockout victory over Jonathan Martinez. He's cool to watch. His fight against Chito Vera goes so hard, and a very cool performance by Chito, by the way. I made a video about that. But yeah, if there's any like any other questions or something, or we will leave it at that, I think. Yeah, like even fighters like that are cool to watch because you can see he does cool things and tries hard. I listen to all Jack Slack episodes. He shouts you out a lot. Uh, who does Jack Slack shouts out a lot? Hopefully me. That would be hype. I've been such a big fan of Jack Slack for such a long time, but what Jack? Jack Black has mentioned me. I'm having a fanboy moment right now because I listen to Jack Slack all the time, and I've never heard him talking about me. How did I miss you? How did I miss all of that? Oh, I don't think I'm on the Patreon of Jack Slack right now because I'm broke, but I try to get into that. And if anyone can send me like a clip of that, just because I would I would love to. Oh, that's so funny, man. If anyone can give me a clip of Jack Slack talking about me, that would be very cool. Also, anyone tell Jack. I think this is going to be very weird, okay? But Jack Slack used to follow me. I think he unfollowed me like by accident because he still likes my posts all the time. But he doesn't follow me anymore. So if anyone like if he has like a chat or something, tell Jack Slack to follow me again. Because I'm pretty sure he unfollowed me by mistake because I got a notification that he refollowed me, and then he wasn't following me anymore. anyway, anyway, yeah, Jack Slack. I love Jack Slack, but he says like he pronounces names in such an awful way. When he says like Vicente Luke, or the new ones like Carlos Pratis. Oh my god, it's so bad. That's the worst part about having to listen to Jack Slack. No, all the rest is very good, especially when he gets into fights with people on Twitter. I won't mention with whom, but yeah, I guess we'll leave the podcast at that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me in this transmission. I know it's kind of late on the week, but really, I didn't have time before this. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdowns, the conversation. I always feel like we have such cool conversations when you guys join. So thank you so much, guys. And I catch you. Hopefully, some of you can join me for the fight companion on Saturday. So if anyone wants to listen to my annoying voice and accent instead of Joe Rogan's, you're welcome to join and talk shit. Thank you so much, guys. I'll catch you on Saturday. And that's it. Bye, everyone.